Hey, it's Dr. Birchler here from the Chiropractic Health Center. We're doing another segment of People, Purpose, Planet. And about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we had Mike Rubino from Beaver County United Way on. And so I thought at this current time, with all the social changes and pandemic things going on, United Way is really a hub for the nonprofits in the county. And probably who better to get an idea of how the social situation is affecting local nonprofits than Mike. So Mike, thanks for coming on. We already talked about a few things, a few questions that we were going to go over. So first off, just give us a little pulse on nonprofits in Beaver County, whether that's United Way and its members, and what's going on right now relative to the pandemic.
First of all, Doctor, I want to thank you for letting us come back and being on your show one more time and being your selected charity for the near future. We are blessed to do that. As of the middle of March, everything changed for so many people, and it definitely changed for us. Obviously, when we had to go down to the stay-at-home mode, we put all phone calls coming to my cell phone. So for 24 hours a day, for almost 2 months, I was receiving all kinds of phone calls. We never stopped matching people up with services, so I'm very proud of that. We were also able to work with the Beaver County Quilters Association to get 1,800 masks made and given to our charities here in Beaver County. We were able to raise COVID funds, money for the food banks here in Beaver County, that within a 2-week period, United Way was able to generate an additional $30,000 for feeding the children in Beaver County. Kids who would normally get meals in school needed to get meals in another way, and so we were able to rescue that. And since then, too, we were fortunate enough, as have many of our agencies, to take advantage of the payroll protection program through the federal government. Not everybody did that, but we were able to do that so that our small staff of 2 full-time and 2 part-time were able to continue to be paid, but more importantly, we're able to pay our bills. We're able to pay our utilities and our rent. And so most of our agencies are still intact as far as that's concerned, but they had to learn very quickly how to give their services to their clients via virtual, electronically, or to do it over the phone and to check on them. And that's been very difficult, because I think we spoke last time we did this. One of the challenges that nonprofits in Beaver County, and probably all over the country, small nonprofits face is electronic media, digital media, technology, not just from a standpoint of money, but it's a standpoint of knowledge on how to do it. I know in my agency, I'm the youngest, and I'm going to be 62. So
62 is young.
Yeah, well, let's hope it's the new 42.
Yeah.
But even though I do know about technology, it has really changed, and I know what needs to be done. So it's definitely been a challenge. But then when you look at kids and people that have special needs, how do you provide services on a phone or through a video for somebody who has autism, for somebody that needs vision therapy? It becomes very, very difficult. So the challenge has been for all of our agencies is how do they deliver services in this COVID environment. Now, we thought that we were getting back to some normalcy when we went into the green phase, but now it looks like some of that's going to be backed off. So many things have changed. The PPP, when I say PPE, the protective gear, that has become another scenario that has become very costly. Some of the things have been able to get donated, but other things, it's expensive to buy so many masks. It's expensive to buy hand sanitizer when you can get it. It's very difficult for these people who, I look at BCRC, who's one of our great partner agencies. They had a furlough temporarily of 400 people. Very, very difficult. So that added to the idea of fundraising had to be put on hold, and it's still on hold, at least in the traditional ways. We're all trying to get more donations online, where different places are trying to do online auctions and things of that nature. But it doesn't replace the energy and the synergy and the message telling when you're in a room. We had our biggest event every year is our recognition dinner, which would have been held June 4th. And we would have celebrated people and companies and giving them awards for helping us this past year. And actually, before COVID came, we were having a very, very nice campaign, because the payroll deduction and the pledges were made in the end of 2019, and then we've been getting that, through payroll deduction. that's the other thing that we as a whole, and then forwarding on to our partner agencies, may be seeing a very hurtful situation is those payroll deductions stopped from March 15th until even some of them continue to go on. So at the end of the year, when we had pledges of, we'll say, X amount of dollars, it's going to be X amount of dollars minus a whole chunk of money.
Yeah.
So it definitely lends some stress and some worries.
So that whole unemployment and people not earning, and then their contributions or things from the, you know, the corporations or whatever that get deducted is just not coming in, largely because of loss of jobs and things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the individuals who lost their jobs, who had pledged individually,
Right.
and then you add that to the some of the companies that match what their individuals give.
Oh, yeah.
So then that match also goes down.
Yeah.
And then, of course, just corporations in general say, okay, you know, we normally give you $5,000. Well, this year we have to put it to protection devices, so we can't give you that $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever. So I'm a little worried as we move forward. I am, you know, did say though that we did have a nice campaign that ended on May 31st, so we did beat our $850,000 goal. Now, how much of that $850,000 will we receive by the end of this year is yet to be seen.
All right, so obviously some challenges going on for, you know, United Way like everybody else. Now, not to, some folks out there watching this might not know how the United Way is structured. I know when I had first met you and talked to you, of course I knew of the United Way. Everybody probably has heard of the United Way, but I don't know that I knew quite how it was structured. So the United Way is more of, did you use the term, an umbrella
Correct.
agency that may take donations through payroll or contributions and then distribute it out to vetted nonprofits locally,
Correct.
right?
We're additional fundraising arm, really, of all the charities.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, this year, our campaign that ended in June, because of us being out there so much and people believing in the concept and knowing that we're good stewards of the dollar, we had a record 73 charities will be getting money this year through the United Way's campaign.
Yeah. So that being said, what are some of the, you know, the actual member agencies or nonprofits there that you have seen the demand for what they do really go up in this time of crisis or pandemic, and whether that needs, who needs the funding, or I know you already mentioned the food bank to a limited extent there, but you know, what of the ground level services have really had an increased demand through this?
Well, the Salvation Army and the YMCA are the two organizations in Beaver County that really feed people, really feed children. Before the pandemic, the Salvation Army, the 12 locations that they have food banks spread out Beaver County, were feeding about 4,000 people a month. That has gone up 200% to 300%. So now it's almost 10,000 a month. Then the YMCA, they're always about kids, making sure kids have a great foundation for their mind and their body and their soul. And they continue to do that, and they jumped in also to provide foods for kids who would normally get free and reduced lunches in their schools that were no longer doing that when schools got shut down, and continue to do it through the summer feeding program. The summer feeding program this year is different as well, because they would also provide programming at sites, and kids would come and sit and eat and then, you know, play games or have a lesson or things like that. Not allowed to do that. So now this year the summer feeding program is grab and go, meals that are packages and taken with them. But they will probably this summer, and when you go back to when they started, when the virus hit, there'll be well over 100,000 meals that they gave to kids in a matter of 3 or 4 months.
Okay, awesome. So a lot of people out there, and some people that might hit home, other people, the idea of not having a meal might be, you know, you might never think of that, but certainly people just need the basics right now in terms of sustenance when there's unemployment.
Another area that I think we have to highlight though too is counseling.
Yeah.
What this pandemic has done has risen the levels of anxiety
and
stress and depression
Yeah.
like you wouldn't believe. Catholic Charities is one of our agencies that is mainly counseling. If it be families, if it be expectant mothers, if it be anger management. We also have the Family Services of Beaver County, which is in New Brighton, that also mainly does counseling. And they have told me that their sessions and their people looking to get help with these struggles mentally has gone up well over 200%.
Yeah, and I would concur in terms of my conversations with other doctors in different places around the country, colleagues of mine and patients and things, that there are more people coming in with that are suicidal, depressed, and they're just they're having a hard time, because you take life already has its problems and its challenges and relationships, and then you add the finance thing, and then the disconnection, you can't be around people or whatever, and just that whole multifaceted thing really seems to affecting a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, with my family, we've been healthy and we've stayed together and we've been able to see each other quite a bit. But losing, as you know, I'm a person that's out in the community daily, not sometimes several times a day, morning till evening at events, to keep getting the word out about the United Way and our charities and what we do and how we do that. To go from being somewhere 20 or 30 times a week to being nowhere. For the last 4 months has been difficult. I mean, I'm okay, I'm physically okay, but if you sit too long and think about it, it does get depressing.
Yeah. Okay. So some of the challenges highlighted, obviously, fundraising is a challenge right now. Delivering services with social distancing and the extra cost to try to protect is a challenge now, so it adds extra expense and things. And I know you had maybe briefly mentioned that you're trying to pivot and do whatever you can through video, phone, other ways to deliver services, though that's not always possible to do that completely. So last thing let's touch on is how can people still help the United Way right now? Obviously, individual, corporate, cash, is going to be needed to support the United Way. And then in the environment of social distancing and events and things, what does volunteerism look right now? What things are there right now that somebody watching can do to help the United Way?
It's very, very few and far between on volunteerism. One of the things that we are known for is our Day of Caring that takes place every year in September. Last year, a record 161 volunteers were spread throughout Beaver County, helping over 25 charities to do things they typically couldn't do. That can't happen at this time. However, we still will continue to match up volunteers when available and projects when needed between all the charities in Beaver County. One of the things I'm very grateful for is that we have now become the place to call. If somebody has something to donate or has time to give, they'll call the United Way of Beaver County and say, can you lead me to the right place? So we've been able to do that. We will continue to do that. Same with the charities. They will call and say, hey, Mike, I need some help with this, or I need these kinds of items. Can you help me locate that? And we've been able to, help more times than not. I had a lady call the other day that says that she desperately needed dog food to feed her dog. And within, 3 or 4 hours, I was able to connect her with somebody that was going to meet her to give her free dog food. So I wish I had a crystal ball to know where we would be 3 months from now or 6 months from now. I don't know that. I think that anytime anybody out there has any type of talent or treasure or time, just reach out to, it doesn't have to be United Way. Reach out to a charity you know or love. Or if you need to be guided to who that could be near you, just reach out to us, and just by conversing, we'll know how we can get you to help somebody. And just gotta remember that neighbor helping neighbor in Beaver County is the key. Treat your neighbor as you would want to be treated, and I think that would solve a lot of our world's problems. And if the United Way can be a conduit to make that happen, we promise we'll do it in an efficient and very good steward way.
Yeah, it's one of the things I appreciate about the United Way is that ability to, I think anybody who gives, they want what they give to matter and get to the people, right? And then, but you have these questions: is it actually getting used? And I know we talked about last year how 80+% or whatever of the donations get to the to the ground level.
We just had our audit report just last week again, and we're under 13%. So
Yeah, awesome.
That means 87 cents of every single dollar goes right back out, and that's about 50% less overhead than most charities in the country.
Okay. So we're going to continue this conversation on Tuesday on WBVP for anybody watching. So if you're watching this and you have some questions just about either United Way, anything about nonprofits in the county, anything about how you can do to help, anything you'd like to hear about, on WBVP this coming week. Put a comment or so on this video, and then we'll try to address that specific topic when we're on Tuesday. But Mike, I appreciate you coming on. For folks out there watching, both through nonprofits and certainly through the churches in the community, please be aware of what's going on, and even if your needs are met, be cognizant that other people maybe just need baseline needs right now, and figure out how you can get plugged in just to help out. But we appreciate you watching, and again, Mike, thanks for coming.
Doctor, thank you for having me.